The change of command in Washington has put the federal government on a new agenda, especially when it comes to immigrants.
The push to find and expel suspected criminals has led to concerns for school districts as ICE steps up arrests. Right now, we are joined by Michael Cornell, president of the Erie-Niagara School Superintendents Association. Thank you so much for coming in. First, let's just begin. What are schools hearing right now?
Well, I mean, this is just a very difficult, very complex issue that's been at the forefront of the nation for decades. And, you know, what we talk about as school superintendents and when we talk to families, this is an issue that should play itself out as far away from our schools as possible. This is a federal issue. It should be played out in the halls of Congress, not in the halls of our schools. The second thing that we think about is what the state law says. The state law makes it extremely difficult for anybody in law enforcement to come to a school and question or detain or remove a kid from school of their own volition. It would take a warrant or some other judicial order for that to happen. That law has been in place for a very long time. And I'm no lawyer, but my experience over many years, it is a very high bar for a warrant to be issued for a child in a school. And I've talked to our federal partners about this over the course of the week. And what they tell me is this is not about kids. You know, as we sit here today, it's not about going into schools and getting kids. They're not looking for kids. And if they're not looking for kids, they're not coming to our schools.
And that is all good news and should give parents at least some solace. But the reality is it probably doesn't, because even the mere thought of discussing this sends fear into the homes and lives of people all over Western New York. What do you do with that as an educator? Because that's not something you can control. These people are seeing this on the news or hearing it from neighbors. They have to be at least somewhat fearful.
It is totally understandable that they're fearful. And look, we lost a year of instruction because of COVID. The last thing we can afford to do now is for kids who need to be in school the most to have them lose out on a week or a month of school because they're afraid to come to school. Which is why I wanted to, I mean, you know, I don't speak for the federal government, obviously, but I have relationships in terms of talking to our federal partners. I know Nick Langworthy was on your air saying that it's not about kids. I've known Nick Langworthy for 20 years personally. I take him at his word until I learn otherwise. And I don't think that this is about kids. As we sit here today, it's not about kids.
To that end, though, are you hearing of people actually staying home because they don't want to go out in public? Are you hearing that students are doing that?
I've heard that kids have not come to school in districts around Western New York because they're afraid or their parents are afraid. Wow. So my hope is that they will come to school, feel welcome at school. You know, my hope is that our federal partners, their parents, they don't want, I have to believe they don't want this playing out in the halls of our schools any more than we do. And, you know, we love and care for our kids. We know that they need to be in school and we want them to be with us. And, you know, we're going to do everything we can to protect them. And the laws of the state of New York are very explicit in terms of protecting kids in school.
To piggyback off of Dave's first question, you know, regardless of immigration status, do you think it's something parents should have conversations with their children about, just so they're aware of it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think in an age-appropriate way.
Sure.
You know, there's all kinds. These are very difficult issues generally for those of us who are not immigrants or, you know, don't have children with a different immigrant status. But if it's your family, it's your child, I mean, it's got to be enormously difficult. And the other thing that I would suggest is reach out to us in schools. We have all kinds of resources. We have counselors and administrators and social workers and people who love their child too and want to help them. So whatever we can do at school to help them feel comforted when they come to school, we want to be able to do that.
That is really good advice. So reach out to your school. Maybe parents are in a situation where there's a lack of trust, be it from the federal government, the state government, local schools, whatever. Can they go elsewhere to look for help if maybe they don't feel comfortable with this school or with that school or with a principal or a teacher or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly try to connect them to other resources, but, you know, we pride ourselves in schools of building strong relationships with kids, with families. It's a team effort. It's a partnership. And we get through all kinds of very difficult things, from mental health to, you know, all the things that happen to a child throughout their time in school. This happens to be one we didn't plan on having to deal with, but that's how life is, right? So we'll do everything we can to help families and help children feel comfortable coming to school. But the message from somebody who loves kids and spent his whole life in school, come to school, we want you in school, and we'll take care of you while you're with us.
We're just about out of time, but I do want to ask one more question. What does the dialogue look like between all the superintendents of the association?
So I've talked to a few, and there's concern. Again, when kids are in school with us, it's in loco parentis. We are charged with treating that child as our own. So we always want to wrap our arms around them and protect them, and that's what it's always about. We want them to be with us. We want them to feel safe with us, and we want to wrap our arms around them and protect them.
Excellent. Mike Cornell is the president of the Superintendents Association. Mike, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your work. Obviously, it's an important time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.